Here's the thing. Birds are real, and it's mean to say that they're not.
Whoa. That
Who's
was that
that?
wasn't me.
That wasn't me either.
I think we have a special guest this episode.
Hey, everybody. My name is Maddie, or I also go by Mad Evans, and I am a person who birds in the city of Philadelphia. And I also am one of the co-leads of the Philly Queer Birders Club.
We are very grateful that Matt has chosen to join us on this podcast. I know there are a lot of podcasts out there that have been begging you to be on the podcast, so we're really happy you chose this one.
Just knocking down my door. All
Yeah, and
those
hopefully the pay
birders.
we gave you is sufficient for you to be on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
Yeah, we had to negotiate a couple of back and forth a couple times, but I think we
yeah.
worked it out.
Yeah. We've been raking in the dough with the sponsors,
hmm
multiple sponsors now. There was
yeah,
one sponsor last episode.
yeah. Patreon's popping off.
Luckily, our sponsors are really nice. They don't make us mention their names at all during the episode. So really just for the love of the game.
Yeah, and our Patreon being very lucrative is also crazy, given that it doesn't exist. So
Yeah,
that's
I know.
wild. But yeah,
Yeah.
Matt, the first real birder on the podcast. How does it feel?
It is quite an honor, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel excited. I feel a little bit nervous, but mostly I'm just excited to talk birds and to
Yeah.
hopefully live up to my first birding podcast appearance.
Yeah. I mean, not only are you the first real birder we've had on the podcast, but I think the first real birder that at least I've talked to, because I'm so scared of talking to everyone. But I don't know if you recall this. I believe our first conversation was at John Hines National Wildlife Refuge
On the big
on the
boardwalk.
big boardwalk, and you pointed out
Yeah.
some bank swallows to us. And I had never heard of a bank swallow before, but pretty great bird.
Nice. Yeah, I think I do remember meeting you guys at John Hines, and I did not remember that Bank Swallow was a featured guest, but I think they're pretty special. So I'm happy that I got to introduce you to them.
Yeah, you probably don't remember because it's probably a very ordinary encounter for you, but it was monumental for us. Yeah, it was our
Yeah, a Bank Swallow is exciting for me. I saw my first of the year over this past week, so very
nice.
excited about that.
I saw like a tree swallow, and I convinced myself it was a bank swallow, but then later I confirmed no, it was a tree swallow.
Also during that initial conversation, it's very I don't know, what's the endearing is that a word?
Endearing is a word.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the word I'm looking for. It's very like kind of nostalgic to look back because when we first had that conversation, I was like super fledgling bird pun.
Not nice.
And I was like, hey, I really want to see a belted kingfisher. So, we were already talking. So I asked Matt, I was like, hey, how can I see a belted kingfisher? And this was like probably like June
So
at the
young,
time,
so long ago.
so long ago, June 2024. And you were like, yeah, you should probably just wait until January. I was like, 7 months to see the belted kingfisher. I think sounded like they're more common during that time, but they're there year round. I saw one pretty shortly after that.
hmm
But funny, funny thought to look back on.
Yeah, that is. I mean, they are definitely year round. I think of them, I think more as like winter guys because they're just so consistent in the winter and you can go
hmm
out on like the coldest day and just hear them like rattling away.
We definitely
But yeah,
experienced
they
that
are
this winter for sure.
Oh yeah.
fun to spot. Yeah.
Awesome. You're a lead or co-lead of the Philly Queer Birders, right? How did that come about?
Yeah. Well, so Philly Queer Birders was started by Elise, who still is sort of at the helm of most of the organizing and coordinating and everything. It started by Elise early in the pandemic, and they just wanted to connect with other queer birders. And then I sort of got onto the birding scene maybe a year or so later and just sort of started going to Philly queer birding events. I think it's a really fun group because you get like queer people who want to hang out with other queers who have never birded before, and then you get queer people, queer birders who have never birded with other queer people before who are just really excited about that, and sort of everyone in between. And so I kind of just started going, and then one day Elise was leading solo, and I think I like pointed out a little blue heron that people were looking for. And at the end, they were like, "Hey, do you want to do this more?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, sounds good." And that is sort of how that happened. It was pretty, I don't know. I like how in sort of the birding world, a lot of it can just be like the serendipity of who you happen to encounter when.
Yeah, exactly.
We went to an event. You invited us to one of the walks at the Pennypack
On the
Hmm.
Delaware.
on Delaware Pod, as the cool people call it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. There were so many people there, really
Yeah.
huge group, which was cool. And speaking of kingfishers, I think that was the big find of that day, was the belted kingfisher.
Nice. Yeah, it is wild how many people come out to our events. It's like it's really cool. It's sometimes overstimulating, but mostly it's really cool.
How does it feel to like it sounded like, you started when it was pretty small and it seems like it's a pretty big deal now.
Yeah, I mean, I really like I would again totally credit Elise with like starting it and organizing it and keeping it going. And I think we had a couple of sort of like high visibility appearances on some like events lists, like Billy Penn, I think, listed a Philly queer birding outing. And then we've also just done a lot of like partnering with the Woodlands or with Bartram's Gardens. And it's like, all the queers in West Philly that spend their time at those places anyway, just coming out to bird with us, which is great. And we also tend to get a lot of visibility around Pride Month, which is great in a lot of ways. And also, like, sometimes we're like, we're just trying to bird. Like, I don't know that we want the news to run a whole story about us. So yeah, it's interesting because it is like we really want to create like an accepting, warm, welcoming, fun space for queer people and to just like keep it that at its core and make it something like, we do this because we want to bird with other queer people too and feel good in the space like that. And so yeah, just really trying to keep that at its core. And then we also get to do a lot of great collaboration with other birding clubs in the city and in the area, like in Color Birding Club or the Philly Feminist Birding Club. We just did our little sit, which is with the those clubs as well as the Philadelphia Center or Pennsylvania Center for Adaptive Sports and their birding group, as well as Disability Pride PA. And it's just a really cool, like that gathering in itself is a really cool conglomeration of what is amazing about the birding community in this city, in this region. And yeah, it's just really nice to be a part of. I feel very, very lucky to have gotten plugged into that so quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. If it wasn't clear to everyone listening, Sam and I just talking about birding in our other episodes. There's a birding community out there for you if you want to join one. It's a worldwide thing.
Everywhere
And
there's birds.
yeah, you just need to look for it and you can definitely find your spot or just solo bird if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt, what got you into birding? Like do you have a story that initially got you into birding?
Yeah, I mean, the joke story is like I turned 30 and something switched in my brain. But I think like it has, like, I grew up, my dad and his wife are very like nature, environmental education oriented people. That was both of their careers. And I think like once the birding bug hit me, I had sort of been like primed to like know where to go and like what kinds of things to look for and also like how to talk the language of like environmental education and like conservationists. So it was like an easy on ramp once I was ready to walk down it. But honestly, like the time that I really got hooked into birding was definitely like in the pandemic, but specifically when my partner got COVID the morning of our wedding. And that was like a really crazy, horrible time because we had and continue to take a lot of like pretty strong COVID precautions, but like masks don't always work.
Yeah.
And so instead of like having our wedding or having our honeymoon, we were like home isolating from each other. And I would like go to John Hines and Bird and just like tap out of the gloom and into the shorebirds. And yeah, I mean, it's just been such a like, it's become such a big part of my life and such a grounding, constant thing that like my brain is just like happy in so many different ways when I'm birding. And I love that it can be a solo thing or a group thing or really like intense, like chase the bird, build the list kind of day, or just like, cool, I saw a common yellowthroat in my tree in the middle of Philadelphia. All of those things are great. So,
That's very cool. That's, I think, the most intense first birding story I've ever heard, or at least like the most interesting. I feel like for mine, it was just like I walked outside and saw a bird and wanted to see more. But
Yeah,
uh,
and I think for me, Sam kind of tricked me into going birding one time and had a good time.
I mean, that's great too. You know, everyone's got their way in. I am glad that it was not as intense for you both.
you said you saw a common yellowthroat in a tree just like in middle of Philly?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I put up a bird feeder. I got this tiny little patio outside my apartment, and so far it's been only house sparrows, but I do enjoy the house sparrows.
Someone's gotta.
House sparrows can be very fun to watch. We have some like scrubby trees in the alley behind our house, and all kinds of birds show up there. I think I counted today that my yard list or like my block list is up to 42 species, and I've lived here for 3 years.
Whoa.
Wow.
Um, like I had a common yellowthroat today, blackpoll warbler, American redstart, bay-breasted warbler. I had a brown thrasher back here once. Like it's just really cool when you start paying attention to all these different birds, like where they end up showing up. Because like I wouldn't be surprised if once the like word gets out amongst the birds that you have a bird feeder, like you might start getting other visitors along with the house sparrows.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. That's like what, four or five lifers for me that you just named.
Nice.
Yeah, probably should pay a little more attention when I'm just walking around the city.
hmm
I guess I just assume there's only sparrows around.
Some catbirds too.
Catbirds too. Yeah.
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 I mean, Rochelle saw a woodcock in a parking
Yeah, in a
parking
parking
garage
garage.
once, and we still haven't
Whoa.
seen one
Yeah.
ever. Oh yeah, that's another funny story. I texted Matt at like 5:30 in the morning, being like, "Hey, where do we go to see the woodcocks? We're looking for the entrance."
Yeah. The answer is you have to go past the burnt out car next to the broken toilet, and there that's where they are.
Yeah,
Most reliable spot to see him in the city of Philadelphia.
maybe next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We waited a little too long in the year, I think, to
Yeah,
Mm,
try
we gave it an honest effort though. We were out there at like 5:30 in the morning
in the rain.
in the rain.
nice. Yeah. I don't, they might not come out as happily in the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot working against us that day. But
Yeah. But good effort. Very
yeah.
good effort. Okay. So for today's hoot topic, this is a question from Sumi. And Sumi says, there's a guy who is always feeding the ducks in my nearby park. It seems like his routine. What do you think when you see people feeding birds in parks? Sumi says, I love listening to you, Paul.
That's very nice.
Very,
Thank you,
very kind.
Sumi. Yeah, so I don't know, like there's my big experience with people feeding birds in parks is grew up in Mystic, Connecticut. There is a part of Mystic, Connecticut called Old Mystic. Spell it Old E with an E at the end, and then they spell Mystic differently too. Don't know why.
With a Q?
No, with a Mistick.
Ooh, I don't like
Kind of
that.
makes it worse, right?
Yeah, it does make it 100 times worse.
Yeah. But they have this very nice duck pond in the middle, and it's like all like kind of like I think like escaped domestic ducks, basically. Like, those like muscovy duck, mallard hybridy kind of ducks. And people it's a big tourist area, so a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic and lots of ducks there. And people are always kind of like tossing food there, but they put up signs that said like, "Hey, please don't feed us bread that makes us sick, us being the ducks. Please like give us, seeds or like, specific things that you are supposed to feed ducks." So I thought that was pretty nice of them to put up a little sign. Because the thing about, I think, birds, most animals is if there is something edible and they can eat it, they'll eat it, but it's not
Hmm.
necessarily good for them.
To my understanding, I feel like as long as you feed the birds their appropriate food, like bird feeders are fine as long as you're putting in proper bird seed, stuff like that, or like Yeah, yeah. As long as you're feeding them the proper food, I think it's fine. It's when you start throwing out like Sam said, like white bread or French fries or something. It alters the bird's behavior, it alters their diet. It's not what they're supposed to eat. And that's, I think, when we run into some issues.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I fall on it too. And I think there's a lot of like, I don't know, I think it's very helpful when parks have signage about what is and is not allowed because it does, I think, vary a lot depending on like what birds you're feeding and where are you feeding them and what are you feeding them. Especially because like especially right now with like avian flu and how that spreads, it can be really places where birds feed can be a big place for disease transmission. And so it's in the grand scheme of things important to not be like contributing to that. It's also really important to keep bird feeders clean so that the songbirds on the feeders don't spread disease among each other. But yeah, I think Old Mystic with a CK sounds like they've got it down.
Yeah, they don't do everything right there, but they do have those signs, which is nice.
Yeah, so it
Um,
sounds like, if you want to feed some birds, do your research, refer to your local guidelines. And if you're on the fence about something, probably don't do it. Yeah, no, it's a question I hadn't thought about, which, definitely comes up because people do feed the birds.
mhm.
This is going more in like the bird feeder, like your yard thing, rather than what do you think when a random person is feeding some ducks. But like there are a lot of different things you can do to like support birds in their habitat in your yard. Like giving them a bird feeder with appropriate bird seed is one thing, but also just like giving them fresh water can be super, super important for birds, especially when it's super dry, or just like having native plants so the birds can eat the plants and the bugs that come with them.
Yeah, we've got a little bird bath out there too, which is good.
Nice.
I haven't seen any other birds than house sparrows go to the feeder, but I did see a catbird splashing around in the bird bath the other day. So it's
Ooh,
kind of fun.
Good for that catbird. I bet it was having a great time.
It was. But that's one of those things where I've been trying to be really intent about making sure I dump and refill the bird bath every day, give them clean water,
mhm.
and like you said, clean the bird feeder and make sure that it's, filled and everything. But it's really nice. It makes the yard much nicer if there's not just like pesticide grass everywhere, and you actually got like birds and nature.
Yeah, and I think for those of you that have hummingbird feeders out, it's it's more important for you to keep track of like how often you clean those because sugar, yeah, it's a more volatile breeding ground for bacteria and mold and stuff like that.
I'll say this
Absolutely.
about feeding birds, though. Sometimes it happens accidentally. And if we're talking about Mystic, I gotta bring this up. I used to work at the Mystic Aquarium at the snack bar
Whoa.
there.
Yeah.
Um, and one thing about the snack bar was people were very unhappy the entire time they were at the aquarium, and especially at the snack bar. Parents, because it's very pricey there. And so the one thing that would make them just kind of like their last straw they'd break was this happened every day. Someone would walk outside, basket of fries in their hand, and boy, I don't know if it was a herring gull or a kelp gull, but one of those big, big gulls, with like it looks like a ketchup stain on their beak,
Hmm.
would just come down, steal it right out of their hands, fly off. They would come up to us and be like, "Hey, this bird just took my food. Can I get more?" Our policy was unfortunately no. Your food's with the bird now.
Did you have signs? Beware of the bird.
No, we should have done a lot of things. That was not the best run place I've ever worked, but a lot of sacrifices to gulls in New England at least.
Yeah. Big PSA here. If you ever go to Old Mystic, beware.
Yeah,
Watch out. Yeah, I mean sometimes the bird's just gonna come for your fries, and that's
That's the world
that.
we live in.
that is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thanks, Sumi, for the hoot
Yeah,
topic. The
thank you,
last hoot
Sammy.
topic of season two.
Yeah, if we didn't mention this, this is our last episode of the season finale. Did we mention that?
We might not have. Well, here's your notice that this is the last episode of the season
Hmm.
and the last hoot topic, but, you know, we're still compiling hoot topics for season 3. So yeah, definitely send those in, even when we're not sending out episodes. Feel free to email us or send us a message on Instagram.
Yeah,
Birds Are Real Pod on Instagram and birdsarereal.pod@gmail.com
you got it.
via
Yeah,
email. I know I was 50-50 going into that, but the muscle memory kicked in.
nice.
Nice. Well, it is an extra special honor to be here for the season finale.
Nice. We appreciate that.
Yeah, great. All right. So now we're going to move into our main topic. And the main topic today, I'm not leading it.
It's not me either.
Oh boy, apparently it's me.
Yeah, I hope you have
Um,
something prepared.
yeah. Well, I think what I said maybe I could talk about was my attempt to see 100 different bird species in the city of Philadelphia in the month of January.
All
Quite,
in Philly.
yeah,
Wow.
quite an endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was so the origin of this was that Debbie Beer, who is a local Philly area birder, who is like an amazing leader in our bird community, I think, and is a mentor of mine. She put out to the bird chats in, I think, it must have been January 2024, this challenge to try and see 100 species in January. And at the time, I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, I'll be lucky if I see 50 species in January. And so that was my reaction in 2024. And then 2024 was a very big year for me in terms of like my birding skill growing. And January 2025 came around and I said, well, I guess I'm trying to do this year. So I think I didn't set the goal for myself until I had like 60 species and it was January 2nd. And I was like, well, I could probably get the rest if I really put the effort in.
Wow.
And so I did put the effort in. Over the month, I went to Hines all the time. I went to Pennypack on the Delaware a lot. I went up to Glen Ford on the Delaware because all of the spots along the Delaware River can just be really decent places to see rare birds, especially, well, any time of year, because it's the Delaware River, it feeds into the ocean, and ocean birds will come up or will just like end up the river. Yeah, but so I spent a lot of the month trying to like plot out birds that I would see, sometimes seeing them, sometimes not. And I got to 85 by the end of the month,
Wow.
which was honestly like great and so many more birds than I would have seen had I not tried. But the like secret moral of the story for this is that on January 31st, I took a friend of mine out to try and find the widgeon that is pretty consistently in FDR Park. Widgeon is a type of duck. And we could not find the widgeon, but my friend fell in love with birding and like has been totally hooked ever since. And it really was one of those things that was like, it's not, it was about the friends we made along the way in the
Yeah.
end. Yeah, I mean, I think honestly that's my proudest accomplishment of the month is that like I got 85 species. I did not meet my 100 goal, but like the thing that matters is that I got another person into birding and to like get the kind of peace and joy and fun that comes with birding. So,
Yeah.
mission accomplished.
That's worth at least like 15 species, I think. So
Yeah,
Yeah, for
probably
sure.
more. Probably much
brings
more.
you to an even 100. That's really cool. What were some of the big highlight birds? Like some of the ones you were most excited about
Ooh,
seeing?
that is a great question.
Did you get to see
I'll
the
look in my
painted
keeper.
bunting before it flew
I
away?
did. Ooh, I saw the painted bunting on New Year's Day, and that was very exciting.
Nice.
The one other thing that was a real highlight was finding a horned grebe, because I think that's the kind of bird that I would typically have seen like pointed out for me first, but I located it and identified it, and that was exciting.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Where was that at? That would be lifer for both of us, I think, for
Yeah, that
Sandpack.
was also at Hines. It was like just off the fishing pier. It was on one of the like there's like bird count events in January to sort of monitor populations year over year. And it was, I think, maybe the Christmas bird count. So we logged the horned grebe.
That's very cool.
That's cool. I'm glad you mentioned like where this whole thing originated from, the hundred species in January with Debbie Beer, because I hadn't heard of it before. I wasn't sure if this was a thing that people do, try to get as many species as possible in the first month of the year. But yeah, it sounds like a fun challenge.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think she just sort of put it out there because she's a great like motivator to reach goals like that, and is also just a really great champion of women birders in the Philly region. But yeah, I think people come up with all sorts of like competitions, either like real or just in your own head.
Hmm. Yeah. It reminds me of have you ever seen or heard of the movie The Big Year?
Yes.
Okay. We watched it, or did you watch it, Keish?
I still haven't seen it.
No.
I'm a fake birder.
Yeah.
I
I
need
watched it
to.
last year after an email that we received from one of our listeners, and that's kind of what's got me on my trying to get to 200 lifers this year.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
um,
It's a great goal.
yeah, hopefully. So, we go to Heinz pretty much almost exclusively, especially for warblers and stuff, though. It's not something I paid attention to much last year. Do you
Mhm.
have like a specific place do you think is like the best to go to in Philly for these months?
Yeah, I mean, for warblers, like I mean, Heinz is my go-to as
Hmm.
well. Right now there's all the warblers. They also lowered the water a ton, so there's just
Hmm.
like so many shorebirds there that are not usually there.
Yeah.
It's like too many birds. Wait your
Yeah,
turn.
did you get to see the white-faced ibis?
I did. And that was very cool. Because yeah, it was just among all these glossy ibises, and it's like, how the heck am I gonna pick this one out? And then I like had my scope, which is a terrible scope. I bought it for $50 off of Craigslist because I was like, I don't know. It was back before I was like, I don't know if this birding thing is gonna stick or not.
Hmm.
But this was my scope's finest accomplishment, was doing a bird by bird scan of the glossy ibises to find the white-faced ibis.
Yeah. Very impressive. It was so hard to tell the difference between those guys.
I have two other places that are, I mean, there's lots of two other places that I'll name. One is Carpenter's Woods up in Germantown, Mount Airy. I'm actually going up there tomorrow with the Feminist Bird Club. They're leading a walk in the morning.
Nice. Yeah, I've come across Carpenter's Woods in my research. Haven't gone there yet, but sounds like, hey, if your
Cool spot.
recommendation, we'll take it. We'll
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Also, you guys want to see pileated, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great place to see pileated.
Okay.
Carpenters. Okay.
Cool, cool. Good
That's
to know.
great news. Yeah.
Yeah. We just went to Morris Park for the first time. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, nice. I've only been up there once or twice. That also seems like a great place for warblers. The woodlands can be great for warblers.
Yeah. The Woodlands, I've moved to West Philly fairly recently. It's a
Nice.
nice spot, one that I didn't quite expect, but really a poppin' spot. But
Yeah.
I have never like brought like binoculars or anything to bird there, so I think maybe I should do that sometime.
Yeah, Sam and I have attempted to run there a few times
It's
unsuccessfully.
so hard.
It's pretty hilly and
Yeah.
and the terrain is sometimes uneven,
Yeah.
but
Mm,
we should go birding there and not run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of Woodlands talk in the Discord recently.
Oh, really?
yeah. A lot of woodlands talk. I got my life for summer tanager there a couple of weeks ago.
Ooh,
Nice. I think we saw one at Heinz last year.
a
Some
summer
Nice.
summer
tanager.
tanager, or
Wow, I don't
or
remember that.
or it was a female scarlet tanager.
It's probably that.
Probably that,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
Do you have any birding secrets that you feel like us or the general public may not know about? Any like tips or
Birding
tricks?
secrets.
Or just like,
Ooh, well,
like
I told you I would
some wisdom.
tell you I said I would tell you my yellow legs trick.
Oh
Oh
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So to tell the difference between a greater and a lesser yellow legs, I learned this from this birder, Chuck, who is often birding at Heinz. And the way that he said it, which was very vivid, so I've never forgotten, is that you imagine taking the beak of the bird and pushing it back through their heads. And if it would stick out the back, it's a greater yellow legs. And if it would just be that same length of the head, it's a lesser yellow legs.
Oh wow.
Cool.
That is vivid. Uh,
Yeah.
huh. Oh, that's great. That's great advice.
Yeah, I knew it had something to do with the beak length or the head length, but this really just puts it into
Yeah.
a really nice picture in your mind.
Yeah, right? Like you won't forget. So that's my trick thanks to Chuck.
Nice. All right.
Nice.
I got to put that to the test next time we go because there are lots of yellow legs these days. Back
Yeah.
in like September or whenever when I was paying attention, I thought like, oh, yellow legs, what a rarity, but they're just all over.
Yeah, they're around a lot. And I think honestly the other bird trick is to like talk to other birders,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
get
gonna say
their
shout out
their
Chuck.
knowledge.
I think I've definitely run into at least one Chuck at Heinz. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
And
best trick is
Chuck is often with a woman named Emily, and together the two of them have just like decades and decades and decades of bird knowledge between them, and they're always happy to help and teach, which is really nice.
is Chuck the really tall man with the beige hat?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so Chuck's the guy who pointed out the Wilson snipes to us. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
Chuck
Nice.
is a wealth of knowledge, and
Yeah.
yeah, Emily was there too. So
Yeah.
small world. I mean,
Yeah.
we go to the same
I
place
mean,
for
Yeah.
yeah.
birding, so
Yeah. That's why I really like going birding with Quiche because he'll just walk up to people and say things, and I'll stand in the background and kind of listen. So that works out for me.
yeah, I kind of just like turn off my shame for a little bit. Like this is also really funny. It was the birding big day at Heinz. We were on the observation deck, and we knew Matt at that point. So we're like, oh hey Matt, great to see you. And I think we had just started the podcast, or it was very
Yeah,
very
yeah, we did.
new.
Mm.
I don't know. Matt, like us, is young and hip, so I feel like I felt more comfortable telling Matt that like, hey, we have a podcast, lowly Sam and I, but like I wouldn't tell Chuck. Chuck's gonna be like, who the hell cares, you know?
Yeah,
No, I'm sure Chuck would be very receptive to it as well. Maybe not listen, but
yeah,
I very sheepishly told Matt, and now Matt's on the podcast.
yeah.
I Chuck would be a fascinating guest to come on the podcast. You never know.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true.
All right, Keish, that's your next job.
Oh no.
Yeah, get Chuck on the pod.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll name drop Matt and be like, hey, we know Matt. Some street cred
Yeah,
there.
hey,
Yeah. You're welcome to drop my name.
All right, cool.
great. All right, very cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking us through that journey. I'm glad your January, while not ending with 100 birds, did end very positively, and I am
Yeah.
excited to try out Carpenter's Woods.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
for
should.
sure. If we see a pileated woodpecker there, I owe you my firstborn child.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Or is that how the
The other
saying goes?
thing,
Or I just name my firstborn child after you. I don't have to give you
I
your. I don't
you
have to.
it, we can just you can name it after me. That's fine.
Okay, cool. You
You
don't
can
want
keep
it.
the kid.
Yeah.
You can keep the kid.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I'll like appreciate it. But what one other thing I was gonna say that I learned from my January month of attempting 100 birds is that it turns out when you're setting like a lofty personal goal, 85% is great.
that's
Like
true.
that's like my thing I'm living by right now is like set a personal goal, and if you hit 85%, that's way better than not even trying.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like I'm averaging like 20% on my personal goals these days. So 85 is that's very impressive.
Yeah, and if you're anything like me, the thought of not having 100% will just prevent you from starting. So don't do that. Just get started, and any percentage of the way you get there is a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Mad, for being a guest on your favorite podcast. Great to have you.
We're moving on to
Happy to be
the
here.
ending with the closing caw here.
Oh, true. I forgot about that.
Yep. All right, so we got a special closing caw this time because there are three of us. So if you remember the episode that producer Rochelle guest starred on, we're going to do a pretty similar type of thing. So I'm going to give Keisha a bird. Keisha's going to give Matt a bird. Matt's going to give me a bird. And this is the final closing caw of the season. Keisha's up by one. So I'm going to say point totals are doubled. So
Whoa.
it's worth 2 points. So if Keish gets it wrong, I get it right. That's a win for me. If Keish gets it right and I get it right, win for Keish. If Mad gets it right, that's a
M-
win for Mad.
Mad beats Rochelle.
Yes. So
Rochelle has one.
lots on the line today.
It's true. It's
All
very
right.
true.
Oh boy.
All right, Matt, are you ready for your bird call?
Let's find out. Oh God.
Do you think it
This
like
is
came through fine?
Oh, it came through fine. Yes, this is one of those warblers that I've listened to the song for and not remembered. I mean, the thing that is coming to mind that I think is, oh, is it a redstart?
Yeah, you got it.
Yep.
Oh my God.
An American redstart, to be clear.
Yeah, an American redstart.
Nice.
Very
Way to
impressive.
get there.
Hell yeah.
I
Okay.
never would have gotten that.
I think that was a tough one too, because I know their calls can be like quite variable. So
Their
Mhm.
calls do vary a lot, and I think also like it's one of those things where the context is so important. Like I'm sitting here in my office, it's like my brain is not primed for it in the way that I would if I were like in the middle of John Hines.
that's
But
something I think we've definitely noticed. Like when we're out there, we're like,
yeah,
okay, that's obviously Carolina Wren. But if you play it
right.
here in Sam's kitchen, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was a good one.
Nice. Yeah. So two whole points to Matt.
All right. Skyrocketed into third place already.
Yep. All
Um,
right. So sounds like Matt has a call for Sam.
okay. Okay. I'm trying to transport myself to John Hines. I think this is something that I've heard at John Hines. So this is reminding me of the one I got wrong last week, which was the purple martin. Lots of
Ah, okay.
chattering, lots of chittering. So I'm in the sort of like swallow area is where I'm thinking. And if I go down with this, I go down with this. But since we mentioned bank swallows at the beginning, I'm going to go with a bank swallow.
You live and die by the
Ah,
bank swallow. And no, buddy, not
Oh,
this time.
was I even close?
yeah. So it's a chimney swift.
Oh man, that's so good. I should have known that one because I do see those flying like right outside from my apartment.
So yeah, you were in the right area for sure with swallows, but I was thinking about how you probably have heard them in West Philly in addition to John Hines.
That was a really good one. Oh, I outthought myself because I definitely have like just sitting outside the other night and I was seeing the little cigars with wings flying overhead and making those sounds. Oh man, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. I'm okay going down on that.
Yeah, a little
It
anticlimactic.
was a it was a good effort though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily
Hopefully.
though, for me, if Keish gets this wrong, he loses 2 points.
Yeah, just to make it suspenseful. All right, depends. Well, let's hear the call.
Yeah. Here we go. I think he might have this one. I'm not saying it's a layup though.
Okay. It's giving shorebird. See, I don't know if my mind is just primed with these yellow legs that we were talking about. Sounded kind of like a yellow legs, but yeah, it's throwing me off. But it was so.
I'm
Hey,
so curious because I didn't hear it.
This sound didn't come through at all.
Oh wait, yeah, that's true. I was like, huh, Matt's thinking about this one too. Yeah, I have a feeling it could be something else. I'm gonna stick with lesser yellow legs. I guess it doesn't matter anyway. Lesser yellow legs.
That if you took the head of a lesser yellow legs and you put it on the body of a crow and you changed the colors a little bit, you'd get the answer. It's a pileated woodpecker.
Oh my God. Okay, this is why I'm never gonna see this thing because I don't even know its call.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a shocking call, but I played it because I didn't want to be unfair. We have obviously never seen it,
True.
but when we were in Morris Park, we did very quietly on our phone play the song like up to our ear just so we knew what to listen for.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just to see if, just to
Mhm.
get primed in case we heard it, just to know that there was a pileated woodpecker around. But yeah, going back to the ethics of birding, we didn't play it super loud out,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
not for a long time, of course
No.
not.
Hey, if you played a super loud pileated woodpecker, you might be pecked.
Yeah.
affiliated would come for you. I mean,
Also,
that's
Quiche
just
doesn't actually lose those points.
Yeah.
Quiche has won. Quiche wrapped up the victory. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. It feels good to finally win something,
Yeah.
especially after last episode where I tragically lost the trivia.
Feels bad to lose something. This is the first time I've ever lost a competition on this podcast.
Yeah, you'll get used to it.
Well, thank you, Matt. This was, I think, a lot of fun. This was a good episode,
yeah,
a fitting end to season two.
Yeah, hopefully you had a good time as well.
I sure did. All
Great.
right. Well, thanks for having me on. This was really fun.
Of course.
And now I have to go to bed so I can go to Carpenter's Woods at 7:30 in the morning.
Do you want to like shout out any socials, yours or like Philly Queer Birders or anything?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely find Philly Queer Birders on Instagram. I'm easy enough to find personally through there, but I don't ever post anything, so don't bother. So yeah, I'll plug Philly Queer Birders Instagram and would also just suggest checking out any of the other bird clubs in Philly, whether that's in color birding or feminist bird club or bird Philly. There's a lot of really good community building happening out there and a lot of really welcoming folks.
I can vouch lots of great posts, really fun to see on the feed. So would recommend even if you aren't in Philly, just lots of good bird content coming out of there.
Yeah, and if you're not in Philly, chances are there is a great bird club wherever you live, or if there isn't, they're pretty easy to start. Just post on Instagram that you're going somewhere and tell Keish and Sam to post about it on Birds Are Real.
Yeah, we will repost anything on that Instagram account. So
So true. All right, well,
cool.
until season 3,
Yeah.
Sam, Keish, and Mad signing off.